Just don't give up. Just don't give up, even if right now it doesn't make sense. One day, I'm very, very sure, when you start to see the connections and things fall into place, you will maybe also realize that it couldn't have been different. Even if it's difficult, but giving up was just simply not a question, was simply never an option.
The moment that you stop becoming something is the moment that your life begins to fall apart. In order to live a meaningful and fulfilling life, you have to constantly be moving towards a better version of yourself. You have to constantly be in a state of becoming. If you are not upgrading yourself constantly, you are dying.
Be who you want to be it now, right now. Just don't tell anyone. And be humble. Don't go around talking about the fact that you are whatever you want to be, to where they look at you and they say, well, that's a bit strange. So don't talk to people about it, be it. And then you'll start emitting it, and you'll exude it. And when you're exuding it, you are it, and people will treat you that way.
You want everybody to like you, so you become a million different people, and in those million different people, there's a bunch of lies. I had to totally tear down. But we have the opportunity, once again, through visualization, you have to build what you want. While David Goggins will always exist, I had to rebuild a foundation. That foundation was built on the core principles of what I wanted in life.
Yes.
Not what other people helped create. So what I did was I stepped back and said, okay, what do I want to be? And I wanted to be a badass. I wanted to be a man that went to sleep every night proud of who he was.
In order to train as hard as possible, you must retain a clear image of your purpose. Once your goal is sharply but realistically defined, all that remains is carrying out your plan.
Picture a life that you can dream of, asking yourself if a better version of yourself exists, what that version of yourself is, picturing the plan to get there, and actually starting and executing on that plan, I think is such a rare thing right now, and so hard for people to stop and even think about. Given how much constant distraction there is in their life, do you believe a better version of yourself exists?
Most of us are only 1 to 10% away from greatness. But we think we're so far away from it that we never try. And once I started going down this journey, I started realizing that, and those percents started to add up. And before I knew it, my mind started hardening, that I started passing so many different people that I thought were so far above me. And then before I knew it, man, I became a common amongst the uncommon.
What if adversity wasn't a problem to you? What if it wasn't a problem? What if it was a privilege? As you think back in your life, again, your biggest growth moments came from your biggest pain moments. If you look back in your life, you realize, man, I had a privilege to go through that. That adversity builds your purpose, makes you understand your purpose more.
It's easy to use your childhood as a crutch instead of seeing it as a chisel. I always hear people say, my family is so dysfunctional, using it as an excuse or something. But it's not really a valid excuse, because everybody's family is dysfunctional in some way. There are so many crutches people want to use to justify themselves. But for me, you have to eliminate every single one of them. Get rid of them all. Then tell yourself it's up to you. What are you going to do now that you let go of all those crutches?
And you have to be willing to put yourself in very difficult situations at all times to be able to do that. So my big takeaway of life is, if you're constantly taking the easy way out, you're never going to callous your mind. And when you're in those points where you want to quit and not quitting, and see how the mind starts to operate in those moments of fear, anxiety, self-doubt, insecurities. And that's where you learn to fix it. You don't fix it in 72-degree weather. Fix it by going into the environment.
Can we define a bad day without comparing it by definition to a good day? And vice versa. We decide what a good day is by comparing it to what a bad day would be. You can't have good days if you don't have bad days. If there are no bad days, the good days don't exist.
That's why failure is so important. Like failing and fucking up and making mistakes, it's very important. That's how you learn. That's the bad feeling that you get from something that you shouldn't have done or wish you didn't do or wish you did better. It's dangerous to dwell on past mistakes because people sort of define themselves by the worst moments that they've ever had. They don't like the feeling of failure, so they keep low expectations so that they never have to feel that. You gotta get through it.
You know, and first and foremost, I think about my life and I think about adversity and I think about opposition. But for the most part of my life, I've been on this quest to figure out how can I work hard for something and my performance is not based upon the outcome. How can I work and my effort and my motivation and my drive is not based upon what the product will be, but more so based upon me taking pride in what I do. And so I came up with this thing called process over product. And what I mean by the process, I'm talking about the way I handle my business on a daily basis and the way I go about every single aspect of my life. I live by this thing called empty the bucket. But what they don't understand, it's an unspoken law at empty the bucket. It's an unspoken law of accountability and responsibility to me on this earth and my existence and everybody that is connected to me. I may be crazy, but I don't know. I just believe that I'm supposed to give everybody that is connected to me the best version of me.
Be kind to yourself. You are actually doing the best you can.
It's really heavy when you start to look at your, you look at your life, you look at your health, you look at your business, you look at your family, you look at your relationships, and you look at all those things that are messed up in all those areas. And when you say all those things, all those problems in my business, my life, my health, all those things are my fault, that's really a heavy weight to bear. But it's also extremely liberating because if it's all your fault, you're the one that can fix it. Yeah. You're the one that can get your business back together. You can repair the relationships. You can get yourself healthy. Like, you can take control of all those things.
I was the one holding me back. I was the one looking for the scapegoat. And I was the one looking for all these ways to say, it's okay, David. You're a loser. You're a born loser, so it's okay. It's on me. The people around me are f***ed up. They're not going to save you. You got to save yourself, my friend. I was like, man, this rest of your life is going to suck. It is going to suck, not because you're going to be a loser, but because you're going to finally start to win. And winning is not easy, my friend.
Winning requires you to go so far deep inside yourself. It's way beyond the surface. It's way beyond internal. It's going to a place that a lot of people haven't visited in a long, long time because they're afraid to visit that person, because when they visit that person, they don't know who that person is anymore.
You've lived a life dominated by doubt and fear. How do you step into bravery? That step towards your fear is the step into bravery. Because we're scared of what we don't know. And there is only one way to learn and to know. And that is to confront that fear. You have to step, you have to go. And this simple action, this simple attitude, it answers so many questions.
See, all of us have greatness within us. But when you don't come to grips with your greatness, if you don't work to develop it, if you're not seeking it out, if you're not finding where it is, if you're not trying to locate it, if you're not experimenting with your life to try and find out what fits for you, I'm saying that you're positioning yourself to be a miserable person, an unfulfilled person.
Some days I win. Some days I don't. But each and every day, I get back up and I move forward with my fists clenched toward the battle, toward the struggle. And I fight with everything I've got.
You've got to develop a sense of urgency. Aurelia said, stop living your life like you have 1,000 years to live.
You avoid things that stand in your way, that frighten you at your great peril. If you cower from them in silence, or you turn away seeking security even, or even sensible security, you violate the principle of your own strength. And if you violate the principle of your own strength, you become weak. And if you're weak, there is no security. Like if you're weak and you have a pension, you're weak with a pension. All that'll mean is that you'll live longer in terror. That's not helpful.
To truly change is to think greater than your environment. And every great person in history knew this. They all had an idea, couldn't see it, couldn't smell it, couldn't taste it, couldn't feel it, but it was alive in their mind. So can you believe in a future that you can't see or experience with your senses yet, but you've thought about enough times in your mind that your brain is literally changed to look like the event has already happened?
I sacrifice everything what I have. I will sleep, train, eat, repeat, and that's it.
Obsession?
Yeah. I think it's not about DNA. I think more than blood, I think it's about mental, your brain, how you think about this. There is like, you want this or no? There is not like 50-50. It's like, okay, I want this and I want other. You cannot, there is like not between. You have to be in somewhere.
It's black and white.
Yeah.
I think one of the hardest things to hear after you don't get your way is keep working. But it's also one of the only solutions to be successful. You're not going to get your way most of the time in your life. Just keep working. Hard work pays off, no one tells you when. You'll never know the true feeling of accomplishment if you've never faced a setback. You'll never know the true meaning of confidence if you never had to bounce back from anything. Just keep working. You're not getting what you want, keep working. You are getting what you want, keep working. One thing's for sure, overthinking's overrated.
For every time you set your alarm and then sleep in, someone else is obeying it. For every time you say you should go to the gym but then don't, someone else is breathing heavy. For every dish that you should wash but instead let pile up in the sink and become a headache for later, someone else isn't compelled by the same laziness. I know this because that someone else is me. Every decision you make is an opportunity to build respect for yourself. And every opportunity that you pass up on is just another piece of evidence that you are not the person you say you want to be.
We let our feelings dictate what we do. And we have to do the opposite if you want to change. You have to lead with the actions that align with the way you want to feel after you've done the actions. You have to take action first, because if you allow your feelings of, I'm tired, I don't feel like it, it's hopeless, why bother, that feeling will dictate you doing nothing. And that's going to keep you on the right side of that page. If you just look at that list that you created of all the things that you know you should be doing that would just uptick your happiness slightly or make you slightly healthier, slightly this or slightly that, then act like the person on the left-hand side of the page. And then every time you take that action, your feelings will fall in line and you'll start to feel more like that person.
For you to constantly win, when this voice over here, the real you, is saying, get the out of here. Go. You're nobody. You've always been nobody. And it's true. You don't hear that. That's the true voice. That's the real reality of David Goggins at 24 years old. It's not a false reality. And then you had to create another voice over here that is saying you're better than that other voice. And you're in the freezing cold water that both voices don't want to be in. But you win. Then goes from the water to the studying, to the running, to the losing weight, to how you eat, to how you function as a man. Every day of your life, you're winning these battles.
You have a choice. You can go for it. Or you can just watch it go by. But I'll tell you this. Failure only exists in a heart that doesn't try. Don't be the person that lives but never feels alive. Be the person that knows the sky isn't the limit because they wasn't afraid to fly. You might not be in control of how you die, but I promise you, you're in control of how you live.
There's 3 decisions you're making every moment of your life. You're making it right now. Everyone's listening is making these 3 decisions. You might be making them unconsciously, so then your life is driven by the environment. First decision is, what are you going to focus on? Are you going to focus on what you have or what's missing? And if you're focused on what's missing, that can make you grow. But if that's what you focus on continuously and you add one more pattern, it'll create frustration, anger, sadness, or even depression. And the second pattern is, which one of these do you more? Do you focus more on what you can control or can't control? If you go in a pattern of focusing on what you can't control and what's missing, the stress inside of you is always going to be there. Because think about it. There's plenty of things that aren't missing, and there's plenty of things you can control. But when you're focused on what I can't do and what's missing from my life, there's an emptiness. Now, here's the third one. Do you tend to focus more, and we do all 3, but more on the past, the present, or the future? If you're focused on what I can control, what I already have that's beautiful in my life, and what's happening right now that's beautiful, or what I'm going to create, you're not going to have that level of stress. You'll still have problems, but you're not going to have the anger or the sadness or the overwhelm.
It's never too late. If you're alive, you can get better. If you're alive right now, you can improve your condition. You can improve your situation, and it starts with improving the way you think. That's the most important thing. The way you think of things, the way you think of things, the way you address things, you've got to change that.
There's a place in your heart where your dreams live and your intuition thrives. So hold on to your dreams tight and realize, I know it sucks, but realize that you might have to move in some silence for a while. And that's the most courageous thing that you can do, because you're choosing to listen to that deepest part of you rather than the noise and the doubt, the people that you thought that you trusted.
Most people don't change. They live the same 6 months of their lives 100 times in a row, and then they die. They go to the same places, they make the same jokes, they tell the same stories, they work the same job, and then they die. And it's all because they were never willing to be uncomfortable, because they were never willing to change. And a lot of people get really uncomfortable when I talk about this, but Most people are average. The average person stays stuck in the same patterns. And so if you want to have a different outcome, you have to walk a different path.
So you have a goal, a vision, and for whatever reason you can't bring yourself to do the things that you need to do in order to get there. And it's not like the things that you need to be doing are difficult in any way or are a mystery, you know? Like everyone knows what to do. So it's not a matter of how, it's a matter of will. Where do you find the will? Evidently it's not going to be motivation, because motivation doesn't trump laziness. So what needs to change? How do we find the will? Many of us are too focused on everything that's going on out here, external factors, right? And when the physical world doesn't reflect what we want in our minds, it leaves us frustrated and confused and exhausted and discouraged and a whole bunch of other things that no one wants to feel. Whereas what needs to happen is we need to embody the person that we want to become on the inside. We need to adopt their mindset. We need to adopt their mental framework. We need to replicate their behaviors. And naturally, the physical realm will kind of just reflect that.
Your family and friends may not get it right now, and that's all right. They're gonna ask questions, they're gonna make fun of you, and that is okay, because you're gonna make them understand. You're gonna make them understand by going out and getting the result you want. They're gonna understand real quick when you have the body they want, the bank account they want, the car they want, the house they want, the family they want, the life they want. It's gonna go from why are you doing that to how did you do that? You can try to convince them all you want, you can talk to them until you're blue in the face, but the fact is, the only thing that's really gonna convince them that what you're doing is right is when you get the result. Nothing you can say to these people, no amount of convincing is going to speak louder than you having an undeniable stack of evidence that shows exactly why you're doing what you're doing.
You forgot who the f you are, bro. You got so caught up in other people's opinions and the way the world looks at you that you forgot what got you here in the first place. Forget everybody else, bro. Forget the crowd, forget the clubs, forget whatever it is. You have nobody to prove anything to except yourself. You don't have as much time as you think, bro. Before you go, let me show you something. You see this guy? Remember what he said. Nobody is gonna hit as hard as life. It's not about how hard you can hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. Keep moving forward, bro. Keep moving forward.
Never complain, never explain. And what it means is, don't complain about life. Don't explain what you're doing or why you're doing it, just do it. By whining and complaining, all you're doing is making people think bad things about you, looking weak. And when you complain a lot, you have a mindset where everything is kind of a potential complaint. Stop whining and stop explaining yourself and just do things in the world and let your actions speak for themselves.
I think whenever we're going through a hard time, we just want it to end. But it's those moments that allow us to appreciate the good ones.
Do it sad, do it angry, do it heartbroken, do it miserable, do it excited, do it energized, do it happy, do it tired, do it confident, do it discouraged. Do it anyway. However you gotta get it done, make sure it gets done. That's what separates the winners from the losers. That's what separates those that get what they want from those that only talk about what they want. So whatever you gotta do, get it done.
The only thing standing between you and the life you want is committing to the process longer than anyone else is willing to. You don't need every answer. You just need the discipline to face what's in front of you. Day after day, hour after hour. Will it feel impossible at times? Absolutely. But it's in those moments where you rise above your doubts that you begin to create something special. This isn't about being ready. It's about being relentless. You got this.
The universe only gives us what we think we're worthy of receiving. So then people who show up for themselves every day, they start feeling pretty damn worthy. Like, hey, they're like, I'm worthy for this. Not like an entitlement way, like something, they just like, I feel like it's gonna happen. I'm worthy for it.
You're not ready for what you want until you believe you can get it. All things are possible if you believe.
And you get it when you believe it.
You get it when you believe you have it. And that's the key. It's like people still, they sit around going, when's it going to come? 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 And that's the wrong way. You have to go, it's here, it's here, it's here.
And you really get this. Your future, for the most part, is not consciously created, it's unconsciously remembered. Because you're actually being informed by something that you're still hurt by. And as a result of not accepting where you've been, you're going to have a concern for where you're going.
And I will show you how I win. So for me, it burns. And I will not stop until I win. So I do these things. I always had this saying, why be normal when you can be the best? So when I do my things, I don't want to be normal. For me, normal, it doesn't exist. I want to make the difference. And when you make the difference, you are being the best. So for me, it's a challenge. So in reality, I'm fighting against myself, not against the other ones, because I want to be the best version of myself and take myself to limits and try myself. That's the purpose, and not be compared with other ones, because I don't compare myself with nobody.
People that are hungry are willing to do the things today others won't do in order to have the things tomorrow others won't have.
You have to discover what your values are. It's part of the reason why I think that you need to tell the truth, because you're forced to negotiate with yourself to operate properly in the world. And if you've warped yourself, let's say, or some elements of yourself by engaging in self-deception and lies, and you're not now, because of that, you're not who you could be, and you don't live in the world as you should live in it, then when you discuss with yourself what your value should be, it will be as if you're discussing it with someone that you can't trust.
You learn more in the middle of a crisis, or when your life has that moment of a downtrodden. There's more wisdom and knowledge, instincts, intuitions, discernment, and instincts that are developed in the middle of a crisis.
The truth is that you are going to suffer, but the way to deal with suffering is accepting that suffering and then recognizing that it is suffering, accepting it, and then letting it sort of have its say, and then moving on from there.
All of the power that you have and all the strength that you have and all the ideas that you have are born in your uniqueness. What makes you unique is what makes you special. You spend your whole life trying to conform, trying to be what somebody else thinks you should be, or fit into a mold or fit into a system, and you dull down your specialness, then you're dulling down all of your ability to change the world. So I think that it's very, very important that people have an opportunity to be the best of themselves that they can be.
Actually, we should play like champions and train like underdogs. Why? Because the underdog works in a way not worrying about what anybody else thinks or believes. That gives you an edge. It gives you a phenomenal advantage when you're not actually worried about what will people say. When you're not concerned by, am I going to fail? Am I going to look worse? See, when we become successful, even as underdogs, if we've risen to success, the biggest enemy of that success is not reconnecting to that feeling of an underdog. So no matter how much success you achieve, always remind yourself the mindset of an underdog is the mindset that nurtures talent, that nurtures success, that harnesses your true potential.
If you value yourself for being a master, if your confidence comes from, I know this stuff, then you're going to be in trouble. Because I think that the reality is that being a master, feeling like you're an expert, that stuff is a trap. And you need to keep your beliefs nimble So the more you learn, the more you need to be checking yourself to make sure that that stuff isn't calcifying into dogma, meaning that it becomes like, I do it this way, and that's the way I do it. That's the way I've always done it. That's what my success is based on, so I'm going to keep doing it. That becomes incredibly dangerous, especially now in a world that